rural water services in Uganda face growing challenges, especially in respect to the sustainability of supply. While investment in new systems and facilities continues, the 2010 Water Supply Atlas reported that functionality rates have fallen from 83% to 80%. This means that progress towards meeting the sector targets for coverage and access may start to fall behind. The Millennium Development Goal target is to halve the percentage of the population without access to safe water by 2015. The government of Uganda commits itself to ensure that 77% of the rural population has access to safe water by 2015.
If you're going to reach communities that are outside cities and outside the city and outside the towns, the majority are in the rural setting where they depend on springs, where they depend on boreholes, where they depend on even sometimes small rivers and little lakes.
To ensure that both the Millennium Development Goals and government targets are met, it is important to identify and understand the key challenges that are currently confronting the rural water sector. Some of the challenges are related to the lack of community ownership of water services, while others arise from poor technology choices, inadequate coordination and harmonization of actors, and exogenous factors like seasonal and long-term changes in local water availability.
No, there's no water, there's a breakdown down there. Yes.
Addressing these challenges involves a rigorous process of research and learning involving the full range of stakeholders from Minister of Water and Environment and Directorate of Water Development to District Water Office personnel, development partners, private operators, local politicians, opinion leaders, and water users. Uganda's rural water sector has entered a stage whereby the standard strategies and solutions are not improving performance. New thinking is needed out of the box. This realization has raised the profile of learning as an approach to improving sector performance and to ensure the provision of sustainable rural water services.
In the water sector, we want to see different results. We want to see changes happening. That means we also have to do things differently, and that calls for learning. Picking ideas from one area and being able to contextualize it in another area. If you're going to see change.
And the whole purpose of sharing this information is to bring in new knowledge of how things are working differently in some areas, or how innovations have come into a sector, so that people are able to go away with new ideas on how practice can be changed or on how adaptations can be made to existing practice.
This is the inner part of the bag, right? We are going to train masons to be installing these things, right? Because not everyone can do it. Because as you see, we have...
Learning is about sharing information and knowledge, and is a fundamental prerequisite of improvement in any situation. Furthermore, learning contributes to better use of resources, and this is vital in the current context of static or shrinking sector investments. Learning provides concrete evidence and a basis for new and modified approaches, as well as new information and guidelines about how to implement and support rural water services. In an effort to ensure rural water services that last, numerous actors in Uganda have adopted the learning approach. Learning activities have been organized in form of events, formation of learning alliances, field visits, learning journeys, WASH dialogue, among many others.
Through such meetings, there is a lot of idea sharing we are able to get ideas from other partners working in the district on water and sanitation. And we also give them our ideas and our experience with the community water and sanitation projects.
These have been at national, district, sub-county and water user level. What remains to be seen is the effectiveness of the learning approach and how it contributes towards the provision of sustainable rural water services. One of the more recent efforts is to embed learning in the District Water and Sanitation Committee meetings, as seen in the Kamwenge and Lira district experiences in March 2011. In both districts, the agenda for the Quarterly Coordination Committee meeting included a field visit where participants learned lessons on the use and management of water and sanitation facilities at community level.
Learning, actually learning within the sector and even learning from each other, it is a good experience because we have different ways of doing things. So when you go, like we've come to Kamwenge, you can get good practices from there and you take them to our places of work.
There was an issue of approach of or harmonization of approaches. If at all NGO X has something good that it was doing, how does NGO Y borrow a leaf and also take it back and try it out? And the challenges faced in trying it out are shared back in the following sessions.
Some of the misgivings around learning arise from the lack of effective follow-up and implementation of lessons learned. But recently, actors are putting emphasis on action. This was the case when a group of sub-county level actors made a learning visit to Amuria, a model district on matters of harmonization and coordination in the water sector.
We visited Amuria and we were able to take part in activities of Amuria District Water and Sanitation Coordination Committee. That gave us opportunity to see what is it they do there in terms of coordination, and then to be able to see if there are any areas that we can be able to replicate here in our sub-region.
Among the lessons from the Amuria visit was the fact that sub-county level coordination of actors can contribute significantly to the sustainability of rural water services. To buttress this lesson, the Lira District Water Extension staff made yet another learning visit to Logiri sub-county in Arua District, where sub-county level coordination has been piloted and proven feasible. The visit to Logiri was concluded with an action plan for the establishment of sub-county water and sanitation coordination committees in Lira. Already, Lira sub-county has established a water and sanitation coordination committee and budgeted for its activities in the 2011-2012 financial year. Efforts to foster learning are often met with stiff challenges, ranging from financial constraints to negative attitudes and inadequate involvement of key decision makers. Other challenges stifling learning include limited documentation of field experiences, lack of ownership of learning forums, and lack of consistent participation by stakeholders.
Yeah, the most outstanding challenges, first of all, I can talk about the follow-up. The follow-up is a little bit limited. I will give you an example, like what we saw in the school with the FOSAs and the Barus. Yeah, this is a low-cost technology that is being implemented at the school level, but it is at that institution, and I don't think somebody who developed that technology really wanted it to stop at that.
Getting people, especially at the national level, getting technocrats to really come in and sit into some of these learning sessions, like continuously, not come in 2 hours and then go out, is really a challenge.
We come in these meetings running platforms, but who comes? The person who comes matters a lot. If the programs officer come in this meeting and run a lot of things, if the programs officers are the ones sent for the running platforms, but not the policy makers at that level, I'm not seeing running becoming a little bit, efficient, because the coordinator has the say in what to put in the action plan of that organization. To me, that is a very big challenge.
Candid reflection on learning does not spell doom for the approach. Rather, it provides an opportunity to generate ideas on how to make the approach more effective. It is important to continuously reflect on the learning strategies and approaches. There is need to reinforce what works while at the same time rethinking what does not work. There is need to learn even within the learning approach. It is therefore important to chart ways of making learning activities more effective, to ensure that lessons are learned and put into practice in order to improve the provision of rural water services.
I think there would be need for us to do a little bit more of exchange or learning visits with the other districts or sub-counties that could probably have been doing well. Because the last one we had was for district level stakeholders. It would really be good that we have another learning visit organized for the sub-county key stakeholders.
If we can have the information documented and shared as a learning group or a learning forum, I think we should be able to have this as a good strategy. Also, if we can document good practice like we are planning to do, you will see that people get encouraged. When you hear good practice, someone has done something good somewhere. And even the communities who have been documented, they also feel happy, they get encouraged.
Keeping in constant consultation with ministry stakeholders at national level to see how relevant the issues would want to share at the national level are is something that I've realized that is very important.
Learning has to be structured. It sounds easy, but it needs to be restructured to be good, with an in-depth planning, after people reflect. How can we help them come up with concrete actions that are realistic, that they will do? So in the water sector of Uganda, we still need to structure learning.
The process of learning must be done in an inclusive and participatory way through which all stakeholders should be encouraged to confront the challenges. By encouraging them to ask themselves why some things are not working, actors may realize that it is because of the way they are working. Then they can make a resolution to change the way they work. Learning should be reflected in policy, practice, and behavioral change. It should be reflected in the application of good and promising practices. It should ultimately be seen in the provision of water services that last. But first of all, learning should be done well.